Hello and welcome to episode 40 of the Access VFX podcast. With recent news of significant numbers of industry redundancies, as well as the continued furloughing of many members of the visual effects community, we at Access VFX wanted to pull together an episode that focuses on offering support to both those people, obviously, but also offering hope to emerging talent who may have questions about the stability of the VFX and animation and games industry too. So today we've assembled a core team from our Access VFX membership, so say hello everyone, who we hope can offer some advice and provide some comfort during this difficult time for a lot of people. So on this episode, we've assembled this lovely grid you see before you, and I'm going to hand over to this lovely grid and get them to introduce themselves. So who wants to start?
Hello, my name's Mark Flanagan. I am the Education Partner Manager for Epic Games in Europe, the Middle East and Africa.
Excellent, thank you, Mark.
And I'm St. John Walker. I'm Deputy Dean of Escape Studios. We do courses in VFX, computer animation, games and motion graphics.
I'm Andy Mead. I'm the Senior Recruiter at Foundry.
Thank you, Andy.
And I'm Lucy Salter, one of the artist managers at DNEG, working with the visual effects film and TV teams.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lucy.
I'm William Foulds, the People and Talent Advisor at Blue Zoo Animation Studio.
Thanks, Will.
I'm Amy Smith and I'm the Head of Talent at Framestore for film.
Thanks, Amy.
Hello, last but not least, I'm Tory. I'm from Union VFX and I'm their Head of People.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for making the time. And thank you all for keeping your mute buttons off when you spoke. So first, it's an Access VFX podcast first, everyone. So with that positive kickoff, I wanted to ask a really nice open question really to the group, which is around the subject of motivation. So obviously this is a very difficult period and has continued to be for a lot of the visual effects community who've been furloughed since the furlough scheme started, let alone the people who are in consultation currently. So how do you stay motivated? How can people stay focused and motivated during this really unusual time, regardless, but also when their employment status is questioned as well? So I'm going to throw this out. Who wants to take this first question?
Saint, I feel like that's something for you to do first.
Okay, Saint. Thank you, Saint. Thank you, Tory, for volunteering, Saint.
yeah, I like that. Well, I think sort of there's a couple of things I'd say, because obviously we've been dealing with a lot of students and making sure students are motivated, especially when you don't know what the future is going to bring. And we found students, like everybody, want stability and wants to know what's happening next week, and a lot of us don't. So there's a couple of things that I think the first thing, obviously, is the obvious one, which is routine, making sure you keep to a routine and keep to it. That'll give you some kind of stability. I think there's also the second thing is give yourself a project. There's nothing like having a project that you make yourself to get you motivated. Have an end in sight, have some goals, have some deadlines, give yourself a project.
Great show. Any ideas around projects that people get stuck in? No, Tory. Tory, you're up.
Almost forgot to unmute myself there, Simon. Sorry. I was just going to link on the back of that. I wasn't going to talk about projects, but just some other things around, keeping yourself motivated. Exercise is obviously, is a really good one. Even if that's just something that you do at the beginning of the day, the middle, doesn't really matter where and when you do it. Just doing that and building that into whatever your sort of schedule is. I think lots of other things that I've looked into as well is around. Making sure that if you're doing something, like if you are doing any work or you're doing a project, try and keep that separate from the rest of what is happening in your life, so you feel like there's something that you can go to almost. So it's not it's not in the middle of your in the middle of your life, so that you have to tread over it every time you need to do something. That feels like that keeps people in that kind of almost a similar schedule that you would do if you were at work or at school or at college or any of those things. You've got a structure to your day, so I think that's probably quite a good one.
Yeah.
And also I think just looking after your eating well, that's another big one. Is don't sit at home and eat junk, because that will make you feel terrible. And if you're not doing any exercise, that will make you feel even worse. But all of those sort of things, it's brain food, anything that you can eat which supports your physical well-being is obviously going to help your mental mental health well-being. And I think just, on from that, there's lots and lots and lots of resources around, what you can do for your mental health, because obviously looking after our mental health at the moment is very, very important. And there's lots of resources that are available to everyone if they need to access that. I'm looking at Saint because I went on a course with Saint recently with mental health first aid, which has got some very good resources, so you can go onto their website and have a look. The NHS website has also got some very good resources that just things like how to help you sleep, because I think not sleeping again means that you get out of your routines, all those sorts of things. It gives you tips on all sorts of things from sleeping, eating, exercise, all those kind of things, and also just some really good mental health resources if you need that. So if you're struggling with something, or you've got any concerns or anxieties, there's lots of stuff on there. And I think the NHS launched something called Every Mind Matters, which if you type that into Google will come up. And that's got lots of practical tips and expert advice on how to look after yourself at the moment. So I think mental health is definitely one of those things that if we look after, that will help us do all the things that Saint has said around, if you're going to do a project, having a good, strong mental health will help you feel motivated and, help you to push through those things.
Thank you, Tory. Amy, you were going to add to the conversation.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I've been made redundant from the visual effects industry before, so I've been there and I know what it's like. And the thing about getting made redundant is obviously your main stress is, how am I going to find another job? I've got bills to pay, I've got commitments, I need to sort that out. And it's very tempting to get up every morning and sit yourself down at your computer and just sit there in a panic all day, clicking away randomly. And it's sort of coming back to that project thing. Actually treat finding a job as a project and don't sit there all day. That was the thing I really learned. Say to yourself, okay, I am going to search for opportunities between 9 and 10. I'm going to send some emails between 10 and 11. And then I'm going to come back at 4 and see if I've had any responses. But other than that, I am not going to sit at my computer stressing about the fact that I can't find a job. Go and do something else. Go and do something creative. Go and exercise. Go and do yoga, whatever it is you need to do. Make yourself a nice lunch. But yeah, I think having some structure to your job search and not letting it run away with you and build up. And it comes back to mental health. The more you sit there staring at a blank screen, not finding anything or not getting any responses, the worse you feel. So I think saying to yourself, it's going to be these periods in the day, and other than that, I'm walking away is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, you were going to add.
Yeah, it kind of echoes what Amy says. It's definitely that ability to walk away piece, sort of definitely keep a routine. This is probably more targeted for people that are working at the moment, but something that we've been working on is separating that space between work and home, especially when everyone's working from home. I'm lucky I have a home office. Not everyone is as lucky as me. So what some of our staff have been doing is actually walking out the front door, walking around the block, coming back as if they're doing their commute to work. That's quite a big routine thing. Or whether you're doing your commute to work, whether you're doing your commute to college, if you get out the house, have some fresh air, doesn't have to be a long walk, and then come back and get back to whatever task you're doing, whether it's project work, job search, whether you're working. We found that has helped some of our people. So it would definitely separating the different spaces so you can have a good work-life balance or sort of job search life balance.
Yeah, it's really good advice and builds on this subject of structure that everybody's brought up. So Tory, you had your hand up.
I did. I was just going to go back to something that Amy said earlier about treating it as a project, and not sitting and stressing about things. We've all, I would imagine that we've either got contacts or we've worked with colleagues in the past. If you need help with something, so for example, if there's something you want to look at so that you can get started, do something like just make sure that your LinkedIn profile is up to date, or your CV, or any of those things, so that you feel that whatever your starting point is, that's your first bit of your project. You've got that clear, so everything can just go from there. And we've all got people that we could ask, get advice on. You can ask your mum, you can ask anybody. Just sense check this, make sure that it makes sense, make sure that I presented myself in the best way, and then that's your basis really for trying to get anything, and that's probably one of the first things to do on your project list.
I mean, it's a real opportunity to really fine-tune your LinkedIn profile, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have time to really give it credence. And I know on a few clicks back on the podcast, we talked about social media. I think, Mark, you were on the original Standing Out While Staying In episode, and we talked about make sure you got your work on there. You know, it's not just about putting your CV up and some dates. You know, it's actually how can you make it really, really punchy and
update your show reel. Do those things. You know, make sure that if you've got a video link, it's up to date. Make sure all those things they're ready, and it's got your. I mean, this probably relates back to an earlier podcast. Make sure it's the best of your work, and not loads of it. Actually, we'd rather see 2 minutes of fantastic stuff than 10 minutes of just anything and everything.
Absolutely, thank you, Tory. Mark.
2 suggestions. One is treat yourself occasionally. Give yourself something to look forward to. I trick myself into doing work occasionally. But the other thing is find somebody to mentor you. I mean, this is one of the things which we talk about all the time. Not necessarily just for people who are starting out in the industry, but if you have a cohort of friends, you can actually mentor each other and support each other and make sure that check in on each other and actually, do that thing to say, have you managed to make some progress in that thing today? Can I have a look? Do you want a second pair of eyes on it? That will really help because it means it's not just you on your own.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Saint, you had your pamphlet held aloft.
Yeah, just on just to sort of like detail this idea of doing a project. The project can be you, and what I mean by that is if you're not motivated, if you can't get into the habit, then sort of look into and research how to get into habits. And I'm going to do this thing throughout this podcast where I'm going to show you books. And this is a really good book on that subject. If you want to try and get into getting strong habits, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'm not getting paid by him, but I would suggest, one of the things you can look into if you're not motivated is trying to get that motivation by learning how to get really solid habits.
Excellent. Thank you, Saint. I'll be looking out for the book recommendations as well. And thank you for articulating it rather than just showing it, because this is video and audio only as well. So, good stuff. Lucy, you had your hand up.
Yeah. So one of the things with furlough is I think it can be a really isolating thing. It can be easy to lose motivation. So one of the things we've set up at DNEG is a level up project. And essentially it's just connecting people to help each other out. Because whether you're gaining from receiving mentoring from another artist, or you're choosing to mentor someone else, it's connecting people, keeping motivated from that community. And I think as a mentor, you can gain so much from sharing experience, because it's just encouraging to see someone flourish. But also it's great for your own sense of achievement and engagement.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. And actually, Amy, I'm going to move on to you because you had your hand up, and then I want to throw in a bit about mentoring. Amy.
Sure. It was just to follow up on Saint's point about yourself being a project, but also, it would be silly of us on this podcast to hide the fact that obviously the visual effects industry specifically is going to go through a bit of a quiet period for the next few months, and that therefore if you have unfortunately been made redundant from a visual effects studio, you may have to look for opportunities in games or in animation or in another sort of related industry. So one of the things I was going to suggest is, if you haven't done it before, there's the 16 personalities test online. And what that's really good for is it really helps you to better understand what kind of work environment suits you, what kind of job suits you, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. Because if you're applying to a related industry, you're going to have to look at what transferable skills you have, and having a better understanding of what they might be and how you might write your LinkedIn profile to better highlight those skills will be really valuable. So it was really another recommended resource sort of on Saint's theme of, yes, if you just Google 16 personalities, the website comes up and there's a little test to do. So I really recommend that.
Thank you, Amy. And on mentoring, I'd be remiss not to mention the Access VFX mentoring program. So we're growing the mentors and the mentees all the time. And I think just being somebody's mentor is a really great opportunity, isn't it? As Lucy said, you get to see somebody flourish, you get to see somebody grow. It's I always kind of describe mentorship as a bit of a leadership boot camp for anybody who's not done it before, or even operated as a people manager. So it's another string to your bow as part of a potential project that you can work on yourself. And also there's the Summer of Animation event that we're doing at the moment, where you can sign up to give feedback to competition entries and people's films, and I think all these, and there's lots of examples of this out there in the world where you can contribute and give back. Tory.
I think we're probably going to get onto it in a bit, but lots of this also, whilst if you've got the opportunity to do it, training is obviously a fantastic thing to be doing if you've got the time and space. I think I hear it all the time that people don't have the time to train often in maybe in their own discipline or something that they're just very interested in learning. I think we're going to have more of a bigger conversation on it, but that's definitely something that would, keeps your brain, working. And as Amy said, it relates to the things that Amy said, that if there's potentially another industry or related industry that you might move into, what are the skills that you might not have that you could teach yourself, that you could train yourself on, so you do have those more transferable skills. I'm sure we're going to go into a bit more detail about where we can find those training.
Well, let's do it. That's the perfect segue. I mean, why not? Let's talk about how people can kind of hone their skills, build their skills. What's out there? What exists, Andy?
So obviously coming from Foundry, many of our products, so it would be probably quite useful for me we're running webinars and events, sort of different, with different content kind of aimed at how to be a compositor, how to upskill, product updates, that kind of thing. So keeping up to date with our products. So that's foundry.com/events. We have our learning platform, so where we have a lot of our tutorials on all of our products. So that's learn.foundry.com. We're constantly updating the content on there, be more video content. So have a look there. And also for students, we also have our education page as well. So foundry.com/education. So all of these are designed so people can sort of upskill themselves using sort of Nuke, Katana, Flix, Mari, all of those kind of all those products that we have. So I feel if you go to our webpage, there's a lot of useful content on there. So just have a dig around and look at, like as I said, events, learning, education, and wow. You're bound to find something that will help upskill you.
Brilliant, thank you, Andy. Any other kind of resources, particularly on training? Wow, a lot of hands went up then. Will, I'm going to go to Will because we've not heard from Will yet.
Hello. I guess I would just say that there is Anim Dojo. It's mainly for animation at the moment, but there's lots. It's kind of based on lots of rooms where you can kind of network with other people that are training as well. Brush up your skills with kind of challenges that are set by people in the industry, and there's also longer monthly challenges to help you build your reel. For example, if you're moving from VFX style animation into cartoony animation, then it's probably a good place to start as well.
Cool. That's Anim Dojo. Where can people find Anim Dojo? Is there
animdojo.com. And it's at the moment it's free till August 2020, so you can
get involved.
You don't have to put anything in to get lots out.
Brilliant, nice one. Thank you, Will. Mark, you had your hand up.
We're doing quite a few things at the same time. Epic have just recently finished what we referred to as a fellowship program for virtual production, which was run out of our LA office, and we had 15 people working on that for short films, and that was something which these people were furloughed or were redundant or struggling to actually find work currently in the industry. We're looking to actually bring that again in various other forms, both in cooperation with some of our partners here today, and some people might want to talk about that. Escape are obviously really good training partners of Epic, but we also have huge amounts of online training materials, and we have tutored online classes, and we also have our software, which is free, and it's free to the industry, unless you're actually making games, in which case your first $1 million is free. But it's free download, free to use. We have user guides and large amounts of information available. If you just go to the Epic Online and download and start learning how to use it today. And if you need more support, we have, again, community. I'd keep on mentioning this, whether it's the Foundry or whether it's Epic or whether it's, no matter what the product is, you will find at the moment great community support. And these are the people who are often the best people to discuss when you find an issue with software you're learning, because they're doing the same thing. They're probably one step ahead of you or 2 steps ahead of you, and they will be able to understand your questions better than somebody who is an expert in it sometimes. So again, I think everybody in the software creation field is doing whatever they can to provide training. You'll also find some of the online schools. You mentioned Anam Dojo, but you'll find some of the online schools who are offering free access for a month or free taster courses. And there's a lot of that happening as well, because even though the schools, a lot of them are profit, they need to make profit, but they also realize that the industry needs this, and it's an investment in the future of the entire industry. So people are doing what they can where they can. So I think you'll see that. I've too many resources to point you at, but honestly, if you are looking for anything, whether it's lighting, whether it's modeling, whether it's texturing, whether it's ZBrush, whether it's any of the Foundry's tools, there's just so many. And there's free tools as well. So, Blender's available if you can't get your hand on the tools that you were using before. And it's growing in popularity.
And there's some great webinars on the Summer of Animation website now. We've got Andrew Gordon's on there talking about storytelling, through to Alfie, who at the Mill, who did an amazing piece on using Blender, on getting the real basics if you've never used it before. There's a wealth of content out there, right? It's incredible.
But I think being part of the community is going to help you. So if you have a sort of Discord server or some way of maintaining contact, because again, it comes back to motivation and training often go hand in hand.
Absolutely. I think, it comes back to what you've all said about structure as well. It's not just building in your job hunt, but actually building in opportunities to train and learn and grow your skill set. I think it's, but keeping a strict schedule built around that. Saint, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Well, you'd expect me to sort of say escape for training and short courses, but I also want to sort of push it back a bit and say, Escape have been doing free 5-day courses in Houdini, 3D animation, Unreal, and even mobile phone production. And we may well be doing those again. If you're interested in free 5-day courses, look at UK Learns, because we're doing it through that platform. So UK Learns, do a search for that. It's got loads of courses from across Pearson, actually, who are our kind of mothership. So you can have a look at those. Some are free, some are some cost money. So search out UK Learns. But also, I just wanted to put it a bit wider, going back to the idea of, maybe yourself as the project. You might not want to do a course in VFX games. You might want to do it in something to do with psychology or economics or whatever. So consider Moocs. And if you don't know what Moocs are massive open online courses. And they're kind of out of favor now, but thousands and thousands of people use Moocs. They're usually 4 weeks long, or a couple of weeks anyway. If you go to Class Central, do a search for Class Central, you'll see a list there of all the Moocs internationally, and you can do a search for your psychology or your sort of even VFX and animation. Class Central is the main website for that. In the UK, we have FutureLearn, who are part of the Open University, and they do free courses as well. So look at Moocs as a way of sort of training for free.
Brilliant. Thank you, Saint. Amy, you had your hand up.
So I was going to flip it on its head as well and say, so yes, there's obviously training you can do. The other thing is if you're thinking about what's next, I'm surprised Saint didn't mention it, but the number of universities and training providers out there who are always looking for tutors who come from an industry background is off the charts. There are vacancies all the time because there just aren't enough people from industry who want to go and teach. And actually, you know, this might be the perfect opportunity to go and do something where you give back to the next generation. And the summer's a particularly good time. You know, the new academic year will start in September. It may be that some tutors and lecturers have left their positions, or new courses are starting in the next academic year and they need tutors. So it's actually a really good time to be looking for teaching opportunities. So I just wanted to suggest that to people as another alternative, because it is really valuable to have people teaching who have industry experience.
Yes, and we've just taken on Amy Smith as our new spokesperson. Thank you.
So Tory, you had your hand up.
I did. I was just going to mention a couple of other ones going on from what Andy said. I think Side Effects do Houdini, which I think is on the 3D side. So that could be, again, that's another site that people could log on to and have a look at what they've got. I think they've also got an apprentice version of the software that you can download for free. So, you know, that would be great for anyone that's interested in getting into the industry. FX PhD, fxphd.com has lots of really good courses on it. So that, again, could be something if you're interested in learning either something in your discipline or you know, thinking, do you know what, I've never been able to do that. You know, now's the time to be able to have a look at that. That could be something that would be worth looking into. And I think I got sent this. I don't know whether everyone else has got it, but there was Jonas Almeida, who's a master in digital effects at NFTS, and a freelancer, put together a big spreadsheet of all the free software, which I can send you the link, Simon, and maybe there's a place that we could do that. And that's a great resource because that covers all sorts of stuff. So depending on what you're interested in, you can just find the software, free software that might help you do that.
Send us the link and we can put it in the body of the SoundCloud description for sure.
I'll send it to you, Simon.
Thank you, Tory. One of the questions I was going to ask was, just here when we talk about kind of free software and training opportunities, that it tends to be very skewed towards the artist side and the software side and the creative side. What's out there for somebody who wants to work on the production side? From your experience, what would be your advice for somebody who's a producer who might have been furloughed or unfortunately lost their job? Amy.
So I know that Screen Skills, so screenskills.com, have been running a lot of free training courses during lockdown as well, and they tend to be more focused on the production skills. So they've run ones on negotiation, for example, and managing difficult people and that kind of thing. So definitely look at Screen Skills. Of course, the Production Guild and the Advertising Producers Association also quite regularly have events and courses and things that they run. So definitely check out those websites. But it may be on the production side that's where Saint's recommendations of Moocs and things like that are more relevant, because there will be courses in things like building up your financial acumen or managing difficult situations, managing clients. Those kind of courses will exist on those kind of sites. So I think, you know, those are definitely valuable things to look at if you're looking for training and you are more on the production side.
Thank you, Amy. Tory.
I was just going to say that also, if there is anything which is short term or you can volunteer for, go and do it. You know, even if it's a project that you think that you might not have the skills in, you know, offer your services. You know, say that you'll go along and do it. You know, just get experience in something that you might not have done before. It adds another string to your bow. You know, gets you a different type of experience, creates more contacts, which of course are great when, you know, when the industry does come back up. And things like Animated Women UK as well. There's a great, you know, bunch of, you know, women on that. You know, again, really good networking opportunities. They also do some training courses as well, which I think they were running some. I think are going to run some over summer or have run some. But again, it's a very small membership fee. It's absolutely worth it because you get lots of contact with people and they'll keep you in touch with things which are going on in the industry. LinkedIn, of course, is another way of just, you know, keeping in touch with people, seeing what's out there, seeing what people are working on. You know, I think all those things are all helpful. I think it's hard, again, until things do start up, but things are happening. You know, commercials are definitely doing things. There's you know, guerrilla videos being shot all over the place. You know, shoot the guerrilla video. You know, be the production manager on it. Be the producer on it. You know, don't be shy. Write your own. You know, do all those sort of things and get involved. That's how you learn.
Thanks, Tory. Lucy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, and if you can find a group of people who want to do a group project, whether it's young students or people who are looking to upgrade their show reel at the moment, helping them with a group project is a great way of gaining a bit more production experience, I reckon, and they will thank you for it so much. Yeah.
I mean, production is an interesting one, because I used to get told even just like organising a party during the current climate would be like a production kind of boot camp, right? I mean, trying to get a load of people in a space a metre apart or 2 metres apart. I mean, I'm being flippant, but you know, I mean, those skills are supremely valuable. I know I wouldn't know where to start for sure. I've been waiting for like the perfect segue into my next question, but I'm just going to blurt it out instead. Is around opportunities, because you know it's a tough time. I completely get it, and yes, people are, you know, furloughed or they've lost their job, and it's a difficult time for a lot of people. But I know that there's a lot of studios that are still hiring, and a lot of parts of the industry that are still hiring. I know the games industry still continues to do really well. I know the 2D animation, 3D animation industry is doing particularly well. So I wanted to just kind of pick your brains really, because there'll be people listening to this podcast or watching this podcast who will be going, right, I'm going to structure my day, I'm going to work on my projects, I'm going to read Saint's list of books and order it on, you know, well-known websites. I'm not going to plug any websites. But, you know, actually, people are, to Amy's point, you know, people are still looking for work. So what's out there at the moment? Tory?
If you, I mean, there are things which are out there, and if you have a look on the UK Screen website, there is links to all of its members' recruitment pages. So that's a good place to start, because it lists everything. So rather than you having to go to each individual one, you can go from there. And I think also Screen Skills as well, their website also has details of jobs which are available. So they're two good places to start. LinkedIn groups is probably another place as well to have a look. You know, just see what's out there. Recruiters will always put anything out on LinkedIn. So that's, you know, follow the companies that you're interested in, because then you'll hear about those things, you know, the roles that are coming up.
Thank you, Tory. Mark?
There are some industries that are allied or skills are easily transferable, which I would certainly suggest the games industry has quite a lot of potential for artists within film. But there are other things like architecture or industrial design, where a lot of people can actually transfer skills to there. And again, London is a massive hub for architectural design globally. The UK as a whole has a huge amount of development still going on. So 3D skills, hugely in need there. And when industry does start to take off again, it's very likely, according to most of the resources I'm seeing, that a lot of the industry will be using virtual production techniques, at least initially, which are, you know, similar to The Mandalorian, the large LED screens with rear projected sets. So again, this is something which, when things do start off again, these are being built globally. There are a lot of them in development at the moment. So I'd strongly suggest looking at that. Animation is still doing well. There are allied services which you may not even think of. If you just do a search for possibly your key skills, might be 3D, might be 2D, you will find things which you might not ordinarily consider, and it may be opening up a new door for you, because I have done this in the past. I started off in architecture, and I actually learned 3D because architecture went into recession. From there, I went into animation. From there, I went into games. From there, I went into film. All these things. A lot of it was basically due because of external factors. Yeah. So you can actually find new directions and really have significantly positive life changes because of it.
Mark. I'm going to go to Amy. Amy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, it was something that we were discussing when we were chatting before we started recording, and it's that actually now's a really good opportunity to try companies that you ordinarily wouldn't have been able to. So, for example, have you always wanted to work for Pixar but weren't prepared to move your life halfway across the world? Because everyone's remote at the moment, a lot of studios are accepting remote workers for contracts that they have going. So you could actually work for a studio completely elsewhere in the world that you've always wanted to work for and never been able to make it work before. So actually it's a really good time while everyone is working from home to try things that you didn't think you were ever going to get the opportunity to try.
Yeah,
and yeah, to Mark's point, there's all sorts of strange, so crime scene reconstruction, for example, now is done in 3D, and there's all sorts of crazy jobs out there that you have no idea are there until, like Mark said, you put 3D jobs in Google search and all sorts of things come up. So yeah,
brilliant. Thank you, Amy. Andy?
Yeah, I was going to say, in fact, the jobs that we are recruiting for at the moment are exactly that. People, I think myself, we've spoken to you, Simon, a bit in the past around, people don't think of Foundry, people in the industry don't think of Foundry as a software company, as a place to go. But actually, we do have a lot of roles that are suited to the industry skill set. For example, we've got a QA engineer role at the moment that is actually a senior artist skill set. You still get to play with, you're not working on a specific production, but you get to work on the software all day. And obviously with Nuke, for example, we have product manager roles where actually they tend to be more within the industry, a senior compositor or a technical director. And again, it's that kind of skill set. It's someone who's interested in technology and, more importantly, interested in improving our products. So if someone's used, I'll use Nuke as an example again, if someone's used Nuke and sort of seen or thought, oh, I wish it could do this, or I wish it could do that, it'd be great if you could add this. That's the kind of mindset that we look for when we hire people. We don't go down the route of a traditional product manager. We go down the route of someone with industry knowledge who's used our tools and how they can improve on them. So those kind of roles for us, equally we have, within the industry, we know there are software engineers in the industry, we hire C++ software engineers. But I think the main point, adding on to what Mark and Amy have said for me, is definitely that think of those companies and look at what they're hiring. Don't necessarily look at job titles, look at the skill set, and that's where we are different. If you looked at the skill set of what we look for rather than the job title of what we're looking for, actually there's a lot more synergy to more industry specific, like I said, artists, compositors, technical director type roles. So definitely have either get in touch with me, shameless plug here, Simon, get in touch with me, or have a look on our website. Like I said, we've got several roles at the moment. Again, also research. If you're interested in, if you're the kind of person that, as part of the day job, does research into how to improve things, we have a research department, a really cool research department. So yeah, do get in touch, because we're hiring lots of things in the industry that you probably don't know about, but it is the same skill set that you're already using.
Thank you, Andy. Will?
So I mean, Bluesy, we're probably hiring the most people that we have at one time for a long time. So we are actively looking for every role that you can think of in the animation pipeline. So if you think that you're suitable for something in 3D or 2D animation, then I would encourage you to look at our careers site, because we're busier than ever, and we're hiring and onboarding people remotely. So you don't have to come and move to London to work for us anymore. We're open to remote workers, and it's working very well, as you can tell. I can list every role that we have, but it would just take me too long. So we're kind of.
There's no shame in plugging on this episode, by the way. So please, I've got a few up my sleeve which I'll go through in a minute. But Andy, you had your phone. Oh, you're on.
Sorry, damn, I did the mute thing. Never mind. It was actually just an interesting point that Will makes as well, actually, is how, and a question that I'll throw out to everyone, is how the industry will be affected by, obviously, everyone's working from home now. How companies will adapt to that, how employees will adapt to that when everything comes back to a reasonable bit of normality, wherever we are in the world, is what does work look like now? Is it going into the office 9 till 6 every day of the week? Is it actually a bit of flexibility, a couple of days working from home? And also, and again, I think Amy mentioned it about looking at companies that are advertising for remote working, are happy to take remote working, is that opens up a whole lot of opportunity you may not have thought of before. So like I said, we have roles where you don't have to be going to the London office on a daily basis. We don't know when you're going to be going back to the office. So it's kind of, don't be afraid to apply to roles and then say, well, I'm actually hoping if there was a remote working a possibility, because 9 times out of 10, they'll say, yeah, sure, we've got a bit of flexibility. They won't show that, or you won't know, they won't advertise that, so you won't know that. But the flexibility will be there going forward, I feel.
Brilliant. Thank you. Amy. Yeah, Joanne.
I just wanted just a note of caution on that. So yes, I do think there will be more flexibility than there's ever been, but the thing that makes visual effects different to games and animation is the fact that we don't own our own IP. And in this situation, because it's been a global situation, our clients have agreed that our confidentiality agreements can be altered to allow everyone to work from home. We don't yet know whether our clients are going to sustain that as something that they're prepared to accept. So just a slight note of caution, because unlike games and animation, who own their own IP, so can choose to do whatever they want and make everyone remote work forever if that's what they decide to do, visual effects are a little bit more at mercy of what our clients tell us we have to do. Yeah. And yeah, we don't yet know what that looks like. So
that's a good point. Thank you, Amy. Saint.
Yeah, this brings in my second book recommendation, I think.
Have you written this
on the idea of remote working, because obviously, you know, if you're at home, and we've all found this, that you can just put off stuff, and suddenly you're spending the whole day and the whole evening doing work because you didn't concentrate it in a focused way. So this book, Deep Work by Newport, is all about focusing and being less distracted in your workplace. It's a great read, it's very easy. So that's Deep Work by Newport, all about focus and beating distraction.
Thank you. All your book recommendations, can you send them over to me and I'll get them in the SoundCloud description? Because I'm quite interested in a couple of them myself, to be fair. Especially
since it's you, Simon.
Thanks, mate. Thank you. Much appreciated. Okay, where were we? Yeah, so opportunities. I've got a couple to share, actually. Not working for Access VFX, we're a non-profit, we don't have a staff, but we just had an Access VFX meeting, and I know Milk, for example, so I'm just going to read this out, actually. It came from Jenny at Milk. So Milk has partnered with a Dublin-based VFX studio, Egg, for an exciting sci-fi project, and we are on the lookout for senior level compositors. The role will be based in Dublin, and candidates must be available to relocate for the duration of the project. If this is of interest, please can you register your interest by emailing yibidunny@milk-vfx.com. And Yibidunny is spelled, I'll probably pronounce that terribly wrong, but it's YIBIDUNNI@milk-vfx.com. And also, I know that Third Floor are hiring as well, so I just thought I'd throw that out there. The Third Floor, Mary, who runs the talent team there, was quite vocal about pushing roles at the Third Floor, so the Third Floor visualization. So yes, amazing. Anybody else got any other intel about people who are in studios and companies that have got live roles and opportunities? Because this is the place to do it. It will be irrelevant in 6 months' time as a podcast, but right now, all good. Amy.
There's another link that I'll send that you can share at the bottom of the group. So someone out there, an artist, has been pulling together a Google sheet of every opportunity that they can find or that people send them, and it's animation, games and visual effects job postings, and they're doing their best to keep it up to date. They periodically at the top of the sheet comes a statement that, you know, I've been sleeping for 4 days. I'll update it shortly, but it's pretty good and it's pretty comprehensive. So I'll get that link to you as well, Simon, because that's really useful to people.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's yeah, there's much information we can get out there. Really, I think it's so important, and even the book recommendations are a really good shout too. So I think anything we can offer it will be a huge deal to people. Andy, sorry, I completely missed you there.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Sorry, it was just one final thing from me in terms, and it's more around where to look for jobs. And actually, sometimes it's very good going to. So I find it's going to niche sort of maybe they might be VFX specific sites, but it's also worth. I won't name names because of the larger websites to go to, but some of the very common, much larger websites, because a lot of them are aggregators, and therefore what I mean by that is they take jobs from each company's web page. They take a screen scrape of any jobs that you load, and they put them on their websites. So something like that. So much larger organizations, much larger job advertising websites, they have that functionality. So do look there as well, because it will take a bit longer. It does take a bit longer to find jobs, but at least they're there all in one place.
Thank you, Andy. I should add that I know I keep plugging the podcast, and I don't do it for any monetary gain or any self-promotion, but we've run 3 episodes. Some mutual friends here have appeared on them, called Standing Out While Staying In. And they're 3 episodes, all in decent duration, and the amount of information and tips on building your network remotely, job hunting, how to get on radar, who to connect with. Even if you watch it just to kind of write the names down of the people that appeared on it and tap them up on LinkedIn, I mean, that's 3 episodes of really rich content. And on the mental health piece as well, we've run 2 episodes called Staying Well While Staying In. One of them was with the organisation Sanctus, and there's some really, really good advice in there that complements everything that's been discussed here. So, the content that we've put out on the Access VFX podcast is in reaction to all the challenges that people are facing under the current lockdown or the current situation, as we like to call it. So I would really push that out. If you are a regular listener, go back through the archives, because there's some really, really good stuff in there. I've got a kind of final question, because we're almost coming to the end of our podcast, and obviously I want to come back to everybody to get a few kind of final words on the struggles that people are up against. It's thinking about the other half of our audience, which is the aspiring creatives, the aspiring producers, and the people that represent the future of the industry. And I've heard that there's a percentage of people trying to get in that are almost a bit disillusioned by what they hear, because there's been there's been reports of redundancies, furloughs, people out of work, and the Access VFX remit has always been about promoting this incredible industry, this exciting industry, getting through to parents, getting through to teachers and careers advisors. So what would be your response to people who have concerns about the stability of working in the visual effects animation or games industry? Tory?
Hello, I've taken myself off mute. I did the mute thing as well.
That's all right.
I think, roll now. I mean, we were talking about it again. We were talking about it before we actually started recording. But everybody is desperate for new content. Absolutely. There's obviously lots of great stuff out there, but we all want new stuff all the time. It's a hugely consumable society, and we all want new things. And we're a hugely innovative, creative industry. So if we don't have something now, we'll probably invent it. And that means that we will meet all of the challenges that come through this situation. I think Amy talked about it earlier before we kind of came online, that things like crowds. Are we going to be able to shoot crowds in the future? Are you going to be able to have 2 people in a very close love scene? Perhaps you're not. Perhaps you will have to shoot them differently. So it's when the work does start again, there will be a huge demand for it. We think it will be out there. So I remain very positive for it. I think there will definitely be a gap in between as things get up to speed. People figure out what the restrictions are, what they can and can't do. Travel. Are we going to be able to travel as much as we can? So lots of environments. There's all sorts of things that we're going to be needing. So I think there's lots of positivity for the future. It might take a little time to get going, but you know, it's there, it's out there.
Thank you, Tory. Amy.
Yeah, so Tory mentioned a bit of it about, you know, how much more demand there'll be for our services from our clients because of things they physically won't be able to do. But also, you know, at Framestore, we work right across the spectrum of all the different uses of visual effects, you know, from film all the way through to theme park rides. And, you know, exactly that, you know, there are so many uses for this that are not just the entertainment that you watch on Netflix, and like Tory said, we're very innovative, so we will find new uses for what we do, and they're coming all the time. You know, driverless cars are not that far away. What entertainment possibilities are there within a driverless car? What user interfaces a driverless car is going to need and want, and all of those things are in our wheelhouse and in our skill set. So you know, I don't think there'll be any shortage of opportunity moving forward. I just think, like so many industries, that's the other thing. This is by no means exclusive to visual effects. What's happening right now, it's happening across the board. So, you know, I don't think anyone should be unduly concerned that we're not going to bounce back.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amy. Sorry, Lucy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I think in the visual effects team, some of those companies are a little quieter at the moment as some of the productions halt. But that just means that there's an increasing drive from the clients to get the projects going. So come a few months, I really hope that things are going to be super busy in the visual effects houses again. And I think the crux of it is people, consumers, want this product. They want films, they want TV. Now, when things are tough in this crisis, people need escapism. They always will. It's part of human nature. And I think for us as people who work in this industry, we can trust the clients to keep on producing those projects. There will be more work. And as humans, we are resilient. And if things change, so for example, if there is less hard surface work in London, there'll be more of something else. There'll be more virtual reality. There will keep on being jobs. There's a lot to hope for.
Yeah, I'm more excited about the driverless cars. I never learned to drive, so I'm quite excited about possibilities there just as a consumer. But yeah, amazing. Thank you, guys. Andy, did you have your hand up earlier? I'm very aware that I'm missing people out.
No, just scratching my eyes.
Scratching your head. I know Mark's got his cap held aloft. So, Mark.
Yeah, I was just going to say, before the situation changed, the industry was booming more than we'd seen before. It will come back even stronger. The appetite for consumption is absolutely huge. It's really unfortunate if you're coming into the industry just at this point, but again, back to when I graduated in architecture, I graduated just the wrong time. All the way through university, I was able to come to London and work and pay for my college fees. When I actually graduated, it was just the time of a really bad recession and there was no work to be had. That, at the same time, pushed me in the direction of learning new skills, towards learning AutoCAD at the time, back in those old days, which has led me on a journey which has me here today. So yes, it will be a little bit hard for a while. It will come back, and it's quite possible if you use the time that you have between now and then efficiently, and if you find what the careers for tomorrow will be and how things are changing, you'll actually be extremely well placed for a successful career.
Brilliant. Good advice. Thank you, Mark. So we're coming to the end. I wanted to obviously say thank you to everybody joining the pod this evening. It's quite nice to have all three of the Access VFX disciplines represented as well. You know, we've got visual effects, animation, and games on this podcast. All those positive messages reflect the three kind of subsectors of what Access VFX champions, right? So thank you for that. I want to try something new, and I didn't brief you on this, so don't look in abject horror when I asked you to do this. But I thought we should finish, because this is ultimately a supportive episode. This is about supporting the visual effects community and the people who are struggling at the moment. Is I want you all to come up with just some parting words of comfort, of support, anything you want to leave people with, because we've gone through a hell of a lot of content in this short 45-minute episode. I've been impressed with everything from kind of the global piece through to mentoring, through to mental health, through to kind of checking in with yourself and bringing a bit of structure to your day. But I'm just going to throw it out now, and everybody has to give final words, all right? Nobody gets away. There's 7 of you who've got this. This will take us to the top of the hour. So who wants to go first, or should I just pick on somebody? I'm going to pick on somebody. I'm going to go for St. John Walker, who looks like he might have fallen asleep on me.
I'm not now. Yeah, I guess sort of like, if not now, when is the way to think about things at the moment. You'll never have this time, this kind of crazy time again. And I kind of think that now is the time to sort of like sit down with a piece of paper and draw a kind of target with concentric circles with your skills in the middle and where you want to be and the crazy ideas right on the outside circle, and then fill in the middle circle to how you're going to get there. I kind of think now's the time that it's such a unique time that you can do those kind of things. And I kind of think, based on what a few people have said, that idea that, you know, if you network with people who have different skill sets to you and get together, there may well be a business opportunity there that no one's ever thought about. So I would say grasp the moment of this horrible kind of time and make it work for you.
Thank you, Saint. So I'm going to go to Lucy Salter next. Lucy, what have you got?
I had a chance to write some notes there. I think my comment speaks to people's mental health, because I'm just so aware that through this time, through furloughs, through the hunt for jobs, there can be a sense of, what have I got to offer? And one of my good colleagues said to me recently, he went and helped some students and he was like, oh, actually I do know stuff. This is great. So I would like to encourage you that look at the strengths you have. You do have skills to offer. Surround yourself with good people who will support you and will build your self-worth and self-confidence. And I also would like to encourage you that your self-worth is not just tied into your job. You're a human of value. Everyone is. And don't get, if you can help it, don't get tied into thinking your job or your lack of job defines you and your value.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lucy. This is going well. So I'm going to go to Will Foulds. Will, what have you got for us?
Well, I guess mine's quite short and sweet, but it's just to say that animation is still open and still going. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all negative. And I guess if you think that you've got the skills and you want to maybe try something new, or you're hesitating, then kind of just go for it and maybe apply to one of our jobs or an animation job, because it's not just us that are still going, you know, and it could just offer a new challenge.
Thanks for that. That's great advice. Over to Tory.
Just unmuting myself. I think for me, I've been made redundant twice in this industry many moons ago. But I think that change can sometimes bring about huge amounts of learning about yourself, about things that you didn't even know that you didn't know. And that is often can set you on a path that you didn't even think was possible, or that you didn't even know existed. And I think that can sometimes just show you, you know, something that's completely different that you hadn't thought was possible. I think we can often, and you know, we can often get stuck in, you know, where we are. And I think, as Lucy said, you know, you attach all your value to a very specific thing or a very specific place, and actually sometimes challenging ourselves out of that comfort zone can teach us something really valuable about ourselves, and can show you that you do have, you know, a huge amount of skills and knowledge and experience that until you test it, you don't really know you've got, or you don't acknowledge that you've got. Actually, you have got it, you just don't acknowledge that you've got it. And I think try and be understanding of what everyone is going through, regardless of what their situation is. Some people will be in, you know, in situations that are really tough for them. You know, some people will be working, some people won't be working. You know, everyone's going to have a different set of circumstances. I think whatever circumstance you're in, try and understand the other person's circumstance. And if you can, if there's anything that you can do to support them, I think that's probably not even just in this situation, that's just life. In life, do that. You know, I think that's a good way to approach your life. And that old saying is, treat others how you would like to be treated yourself. I think that's kind of, you know, it's a life thing rather than a now thing. I think it's an always thing.
Sorry. Andy?
Yeah, two things actually. One is, especially in current circumstances, current times, I think take the time to develop yourself. We've spoken, and I'm sure we'll share the links of useful training links. Like I said, if it's our products you're interested in, go and have a look at our website. We're running webinars. We have tutorials. So learn something new, learn a new skill. So that's on the training side of things. For us, the positive news is we are recruiting. As Will said, there are other people recruiting. But again, for me, is for yourself, think outside the box. Don't necessarily think I am one particular, I do one particular thing. Have a look at the skills you use and have a think of what other industries, a bit like what Saint said, put your key skills in the middle and then work around that. And you may find your dream job, hopefully it's with us, where it's still within the industry, but you might not have thought of it before. So, and again, if you're a VFX person, maybe that could move across into games, vice versa, games that can move across into VFX. So those would be my two.
Thank you, Andy. Over to you, Mark Flanagan.
Unmute, there we go.
Yeah.
Yes, sort of repeating some of the things that said before. I was just going to say, be excellent to each other. That really does help. It's the same kind of advice. You can't necessarily control how other people treat you, but you can certainly control how you treat other people. And it tends to actually reflect back upon you and makes everything better. You'll also find one of the best things you can find to actually make yourself feel better about yourself is being good to other people. That is something which the more you try it, the more you find it works. And the second thing is don't give up, because you will, if you persevere, you will actually succeed in what you want to do. Sometimes it takes longer than others, but it will happen. And the one thing I can say about everybody I know who's been successful is they didn't give up before they became successful. And they could have. It could have just been the day before they got a reply saying, yes, your dream job is there. So be excellent to each other and don't give up.
Thank you, Mark. And Amy, I'm giving you the final word.
No pressure.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say is that this industry quite often comes in for a lot of criticism, some of it very fair and some of it not so much. But actually at times like these, we really do show our true colours as an industry. My partner works in hospitality, and I can tell you not a single person in the hospitality industry is thinking, how can I help my team find other jobs? It's just not on their radar. It's not something they care about. And the very fact that this podcast exists should show you that actually there's a huge amount of support out there right now. Just because you've got made redundant from your studio doesn't mean that they're not there to support you and help you. Equally, vice versa as well. If you've been made redundant from DNEG and you reach out to me and you say, I don't know where to go, I don't know where to find help, I'm going to help you right now, because that's the kind of community that we are. So don't feel alone. There's lots of support out there. You just have to ask.
Thank you, Erin. They would have been amazing final words if Saint hadn't put his hand up. So Saint, what are you going to bring?
Last book recommendation, if that's what turns you guys on, and that is that we've been sort of in this period. It's very easy to lose connection to your own creativity. You're too busy, frittering about sort of job roles or etc. And I think it's really good to try and use this time to reconnect to your creativity. And this book by Austin Kleon, I hope that's how you pronounce it, K-L-E-O-N, Austin Kleon, Steal Like an Artist. It's a really good book, full of as all the people on this call were saying, it's in here. Everything that you've said is actually in this book. So it's a really good book, Austin Kleon's Steal Like an Artist. It'll help you reconnect with your creativity.
Amazing. Cool. Well, on that note, we've overrun a bit, so thank you for entertaining that, everyone. I just want to give all of you a big thank you. So big thank you to Mark, big thank you to Saint, Tory, Will, Lucy, Amy and Andy. I know it's a big ask and a chunk of your evening to give up, so thank you so much for making time. Again, please, check out all the links that we'll put on our SoundCloud page, because we've got a bit more space to play with word count wise. So go to SoundCloud, check this podcast out, and read all the book recommendations, all the Saints recommendations, all the links that everybody shared. And of course, get involved with the Access VFX Mentor Program. I shout it out at the end of every podcast, and I'm doing the same right now. It's www.accessvfx.org/mentors. We need more mentors, we need more mentees, and it's a great way to give back, do something good, be kind to someone else who's struggling to, whether they're working in industry or not. So thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and stay safe, everyone. Thank you.